Have you ever been walking or driving and seen a Volkswagen and wonder, how did Volkswagen come to be? How did it start? And why do people say they are the most unreliable? Well, buckle up, because I am here to answer some of these questions about this German car brand and how they got recognition and popularity. In 1934, a little German car by the name of Jäfer, or the Beetle, gets designed by Ferdinand Porsche in Germany for a Nazi prestige project. 1937. On May 28, 1937, Volkswagen was founded by Ferdinand Porsche. If you're wondering, yes, that Porsche, the guy who made the German GT and sports cars we almost all know. The manufacturer had a bigger name, which I'm going to butcher, called the Getzelvervor, or Company for the Preparation of the German Volkswagen Ltd. In 1938, the company was renamed to its final name, Volkswagen Work GmbH, for Europe, and built their main plant in Wolfsburg, Germany. The outbreak of war and interrogation prevented mass production of Volkswagen and military vehicles and other armaments that were produced using forced labor. One year at a Nazi rally, the Führer, translating to leader, or Adolf Hitler in that time, at the rally, Hitler was talking about Volkswagen, translating, "It is for the broad masses that this car has been built. Its purpose is to answer their transportation needs, and it is intended to give them joy." The KDF, which was also a shared name with the Type 1, the Jäfer, which translates to Beetle from German, and many other names for this two-door hatchback thing. 1939, World War II broke out. Volkswagen halts their process for mass production on their citizen automobiles and was made to make military weapons and vehicles, which brings up one of my favorite vehicles of the time and one of my favorite things to say, which is the Kühlwagen. Don't butcher, because I've been saying it too much. Why I bring it up is because it was a revolution to the German army. The only vehicle that was capable of floating across rivers and lakes. And meaning floating, it went into the water, which made it very convenient for soldiers getting across land. After the war, Volkswagen was being rebuilt by the British and ordered Volkswagen to keep building their saloon at the end of 1945 to resume mass production in most populated countries, including America, which at the time, the Type 1 was going under some quality issues, as marking quotations. German military government ordered a service to help technical improvements. March 30th, 1946, the 1000th Volkswagen was made that year, and later on in that year, on December 6, 1946, the 10,000th Volkswagen was produced, given the difficult production conditions. This source from the Volkswagen Group 1945 to 1949 timeline states, in order to remain competitive on international markets, British officers ordered a critical review of the Volkswagen sedan at the end of 1947. 1948 and 1949. Volkswagen gets a trademark with the German patent and slightly changed the logo to what we see today, with the V over the W. A year later, the Volkswagen brought two Volkswagen Beetles to American lands in attempts to sell affordable small vehicles, not as strong in quality because of shipping conditions. Early 1950s. The Korean War increases the need for raw materials, causing Volkswagen to make body panels. In this year, the Volkswagen team designed the Type 2 and released it into production. Its many nicknames, the Type 2's mission was to transport more people. This was one of the vans that made an impact on the culture later in the 60s to 90s, especially in America. In 1953, at the Paris Auto Show, Volkswagen introduced the Volkswagen Karmann Ghia, a slick two-door sports car. Late 1950s. Years were a beginning to the next step in Volkswagen. They established their first Volkswagen in America in 1955 for service and organized dealers for shipping and selling after shocking American buyers with the same two Volkswagen Beetles. The The Beetle was given the name Beetle when it went into an America. In European lands, it was named the Type 1. Simple, yet it worked for them in sales and popularity. In 1957, the Volkswagen Common Ghia gets put out into production. 1960s were about the same for Volkswagen in Germany, but in America, the Type 2 bus was making an impact for culture. People were buying these vans fast. Also, at the same time, the Beetles were starting to get more popular in North America. The Beetle was a Baja champion, and the Type 2 was a mountain trail climber, as well as the Common Ghia making more popularity for itself. In 1964, Volkswagen introduced the Passat and Golf, or Rabbit, in the United States. Volkswagen's first factory cars to come with a water-cooled and front-wheel drive drivetrain system. In the 1970s, there was an oil crisis going on in America, and the Golf was slowly but effectively replacing the Beetle in sales, becoming Volkswagen's best-selling model worldwide. Speaking of vehicles, my grandma had a 1973 Super Beetle, which she couldn't find a picture to show in a video, so I'm showing a picture of this almost identical 1973 yellow Volkswagen Super Beetle. Anyway, the Type 2 was making more comebacks with the second generation. This was similar to the first gen, but in my opinion made it stand out more. This generation was the first to include a pickup version. In the 1980s, Volkswagen started production on one of my favorite cars, the Volkswagen Jetta Mark I. 1980, a start to a family-friendly Volkswagen began with the redesigns on almost all models, Passat, Type 2, and Golf, but not the Beetle. It'll have to wait till the 1990s. Sorry, Beetle. Anyway, the oil crisis was at its peak in mid-1980, which caused Volkswagen to only produce one engine in the Golf model. In other sad news, in 1986, Volkswagen stopped production on all Beetles made that year, but the Golf was there to do its job. Well, it's on break. In 1987, the Volkswagen Golf was the best-selling car in Brazil with over 7,000 sales and was the highest market leader until 2012. 1990s. Things were starting to cook up a little for Volkswagen, especially the performance models. Volkswagen's GTI and GLI were making a spot for the cartooner community, primarily in the rally side, with the weight distribution and fixtures for both GTI and GLI performing well in high-speed dirt track. Mid-1990s. Volkswagen unveils the new Beetle and they name it Concept 1, a much different look to the older metal bucket, but is smoother and looks futuristic at the time. But over time, and many other realistic design, production in 1998. 2000s. The new Beetle has finally arrived, equipped with a 5-speed manual or an automatic transmission and power windows, starting out at $15,000 MSRP. This also came in a diesel trim with 1.9-liter turbo inline-4 engine named the TDI, or direct injection. This comes to the 2010s. Volkswagen is more normal than ever in America, and things are starting to look up for Volkswagen, but they made some mistakes in the new models of their new 2.0 TDI. Had the capability to violate emissions testings by the owner putting the car into a separate mode that limited power to pass emissions testing, which resulted in a heavier nitrogen oxide emission, which was 40% higher than federal limit. In 2019, German prosecutors raided the Wolfsburg plant in Germany to see if the second 2.0 TDI had the same technology. Did not, and as of 2019, Audi and Volkswagen cannot sell any TDI models. As of 2024, nothing much changed with Volkswagen, but over the course of these decades, except for the newer generations, new models, and discontinuations of some models, you can see or hear how much Volkswagen has accomplished and done for themselves, from coming from Nazi territory to becoming one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world.